Ciao Amici, I'm Master Leo Spizzirri, and today I'm going to show you something amazing. CJ, you know how to make a meatball sub?
Not like this, bro.
Dude, I'm going to show you my meatball sub. Stick around, watch what's about to happen. "35 years, this never gets old." Let's start with the sauce. This is my go-to, my fire roasted cherry tomato sauce. Super simple, ingredients from the grocery store. If you don't have time to go to a farmer's market, hit the produce department and find yourself the ripest cherry tomatoes you can find, and you're gonna have something amazing. The ingredients are simple. I've got a pint of cherry tomatoes, a can of 28-ounce San Marzano tomatoes that I crushed by hand. All of a sudden, I'm just gonna take a clove of garlic, or 6 if you like my boy Nate. A little bit of olive oil, some basil. I put balsamic vinegar in here because to me, I love that little acidity plus the sweetness that balsamic brings to that sauce. And this is gonna be that secret you're gonna say. You're not gonna tell anybody that it's gonna be in there because they're all gonna say, "What's the secret?" And you say, "I can't tell you." The last thing, obviously, salt and pepper. One of the craziest things that we talk about in the restaurant business is what's the best part of a recipe? Make sure you put salt and pepper and it'll eliminate half of your problems. We take all that, fire roast the cherry tomatoes, marinated with a little bit of garlic and olive oil. That goes into a screaming hot oven. While those are in there, then we build the sauce. Literally dump those whole peeled tomatoes, crush them with your hand, add the rest of those ingredients, the olive oil, the basil, that little bit of balsamic, mix it all together. When the cherry tomatoes are really beautiful and blistered on the outside, we take them, we mix them together with the sauce, put everything back in the same pan as you roasted in. The first thing you're gonna notice while those cherry tomatoes are in the oven is that garlic that we're gonna hand crush. I don't wanna chop it with a knife. I want it to be rustic so those essential oils come out. All of a sudden, your entire neighborhood is gonna smell like the best Italian restaurant you've ever been to. My meatball mix is super simple, and it's one of those things that you can either roll out into balls, form them into patties, or maybe use it as your favorite pizza topping and hand pinch it like Italian sausage. My mix starts with 3 different kinds of meat that you should be able to find at any grocery store. You don't need a fancy butcher shop. I start with 80-20 chuck, that's ground beef. I've got veal, a little bit of ground veal. If you can't find veal, always trick everybody to thinking you used veal and use ground turkey instead. And then the final, that little secret that I use, Italian sausage. Get yourself some bulk Italian sausage outside of the casing. If you can't find bulk Italian sausage, use the one in the casing, take the outside off, and use what's in the middle. 1 pound of each of those. Then we start the wet mix. The reason why my meatballs are so delicious is because they're not like a brick or a hockey puck. They're moist, they're juicy, they're oozing with flavor. Outside of that, I take some bread. Bread that's been out for a couple days, that now is hard as a rock. I'm gonna take that, cut it up into cubes, put some milk into that so I make it soft again. That milk inside the bread is what's gonna make these meatballs beautiful, moist, and tender. From there, I'm putting what I call a ton of pecorino romano, sheep's milk, salty, comes from southern Italy. It literally is a ton, but believe me, put what I told you in there. I like to use locatelli, but if you can't find locatelli, get yourself grated Romano. If you can't find grated Romano, switch it out with Parmesan. But I promise you, the Romano is what reminds me of my grandma. Then finally, couple eggs to hold it all together, black pepper, chopped parsley. Put as much parsley as you like, but it's one of those ingredients that stands out and it's way underused in America. We use it in Italy all the time and it's gonna be your secret. From there, garlic. We've got a lot of garlic in here. Use as much or as little as you want. And finally, a couple turns of fresh cracked pepper and even a little bit of salt. Don't forget, we've got a lot of Romano cheese in this, so you don't want to put too much salt. Blend all the wet ingredients together until it's like this sloppy mess in your hands and literally pour it into the ground meat. Once you have it all together, mix it till it's all combined very smooth. Now this is one of those great parts. You can either take this as it is and make your meatballs right now, or go ahead and scoop them in a plate, wrap them with plastic wrap, and stick them in the refrigerator until you're ready to use. I love to fire my meatballs in hot oil. I know it's one of those things that I'm gonna hear tons of comments about smoke points and all this stuff. Believe me, guys, maybe you don't know what that means, but you don't need to. Trust me. Olive oil is going to give these meatballs this beautiful, fantastic flavor. And then when you take these out of the olive oil, I'm going to have you put them right into that fresh tomato sauce that we just made that's hot out of the oven, still bubbling, the char of those tomatoes, and then guess what? Those drips of olive oil in that sauce. It makes sense, right? All you have to do is take these meatballs. I use a side spoon and I almost turn the meatballs upside down into the sauce. Once I've got them all turned, I stick them back in the oven to finish them. You don't need very long. By the time the tops of those meatballs start to get a little color because of the sugars in the tomatoes, they're done. In the meantime, while that's all happening, get yourself a beautiful bastone of semolina bread. At least that's what I would call it in the Italian bakery when I go. But if you're gonna go to your local grocery store, to commercial shop, wherever you're gonna go, find yourself a beautiful hoagie roll. I scoop the middle out of it, take a bunch of that bread out the middle because now it's gonna be the perfect vessel to hold all those meatballs. They won't be sliding all over the place when you eat them. Now that you've got your meatballs inside the bread, there's a couple bonus round things I'm gonna have you do. Get yourself a block of whole milk mozzarella. Get yourself a box grater. And then with that box grater, make it snow all over those meatballs. When you have that all done, stick the whole thing back into the oven. Oh, and by the way, don't forget to put some cheese on the lid. We want flavor everywhere, and that caramelized cheese is gonna take this over the top. Guys, we got like 60 seconds. You don't have time to go walk the dog or go get a drink. If there's one thing that I consider to be my culinary autograph, it's this, the Meatball Sub. There's nothing that says Chicago better than this. The meatball recipe is super simple. It's actually my grandmother's, and anybody can do this with just some basic ingredients. I put this little ditch in here so that I can put the lid back on just like this. But how about, wait 1 second. Let's finish this. This ain't done yet. I want to make this really be Leo. I'm going to take a little bit of these Calabrian chili peppers. These are crushed peppers, just a little kiss of heat on top of each one of these beautiful meat beauties. Is it really hot, Leo? It's really hot. Really hot? Not really hot for me because I'm Calabrese, but you know, somebody that's in one of those towns that doesn't eat a lot of spice might consider this to be spicy. You don't have to do this. This is just one of those extra things that the beauty of cooking at home is up to you. Make it your own. Take my recipe. If you saw me do something you don't like, don't do it. Let's take a little bit of Parmigiano Reggiano, just like this. That little snowfall of Parmigiano. The residual heat from that oven is gonna kind of just melt that cheese. And then the last little kiss, just some fresh basil right on the top. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the moment I've been waiting for. You know, there's one last thing that I really wanna do. We spent all this time making this beautiful sauce, and now that those meatballs have rendered all of that pork fat love inside over here, Ethan, come here, look at this. Look at the juices, look at that oil. This, to me, needs to go in a bowl and served right on the side. I think if this looks like a Leo portion, I might not share this with the boys, but there's definitely one thing that I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna show you right now. Look at how beautiful this sauce is. Beautiful cooked tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, everything in here is awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut this. I love how crispy the outside of this bread is. I'm gonna cut this on a bias, and I'm gonna show you why. As I come through here, guys, the money shot, you ready? And then, let's not forget that dunk. I literally am gonna come just like this into that sauce. I'm gonna have to unhinge my jaw for this. The garlic, the zestiness of that sauce, and then that final punch from those chili peppers. If you haven't tried this yet, go back, make this for yourself. You're gonna impress all your family. This is gonna be the one that you're gonna take to the neighborhood and say, my world famous meatballs. I hope you guys learned something. I can't wait to hear the comments on the page. How did you do? I'm Chef Leo. Ciao, amici.